I looked up the word champions, and if you look it up, they've got a definition of noun and verbs and what it really means, and I'm really taken back when we try to get an understanding of words. And when I looked at the word champions, you are champions, and that's not just lip service. That's about saving people's lives and future generations. We heard just a moment ago from these eminent three that were here. You're at the coalface. Janine, what's happened for you in that journey?
Well, I've been with Glenn pretty much from the start for the last 9 years. And when we first started with prevention, we realised that health alone can't fix it. We need the whole community to come together and change the environment of Western Sydney. And that means that our residents have got access to healthy food and know how to cook. Because cooking's missed a generation and a whole lot of families here. They need access to physical activity, and as Professor Leder says, we need to give people a choice so that people can do something that fits in with their life that they're actually going to enjoy. That there's a reduced reliance on car transport, because everyone who works and lives in Western Sydney knows that people in Western Sydney drive pretty much everywhere. And most recently we realised that we need to increase the canopy cover. So what we did was we started putting together an alliance because we realised that all the sectors needed to come together, and we were very fortunate to have the Department of Premier and Cabinet assist us, so that we were able to get leaders from all sorts of sectors to come along and join the alliance, and then get people from the government, non-government and private organisations. And it's grown over the last 10 years, and we now have 140 organisations as part of our alliance.
And if I can say, and not to single anyone out, but Blacktown Workers or Lifestyle Group have been absolutely amazing. And I know that our chairman is here and our CEO, but they have been amazing in hearing the story and stepping up to the plate. I think that's a fair summary.
That's absolutely right, Jim. We've held so many functions here, and also they've made a commitment of $100,000 for over a 5-year period each year, and that's been absolutely a game changer, that we've been able now to look at things that we could never look at before, and that included things like the 2kg campaign that's already been spoken about already tonight.
And I'm just watching heads acknowledge that. I just saw Stephen acknowledge the 100,000, saying that's a commitment of 5 years. We've bought some time. I'm looking at prevention and I'm saying step up, step back. We're stepping up, and I want to applaud the board and also your acknowledgement of that as a commitment. Janine, thank you. You've driven that so well. As I say, I'm ad-libbing a bit in a sense because there's 6 here, but we'll get through it, okay? Now, Doug, tell us about you and what you're doing, an amazing journey. Thank you, Janine. Yep.
Thank you. My involvement at present has concluded. However, I was involved early on when Janine and Glenn came to me, and I was working in the Department of Premier and Cabinet in the Western Sydney office. They, as with many people who would come through our door, would proceed to sort of give the description of what they were seeking, what they hoped to achieve, and it just struck me immediately that this was something that could really deliver for this community. And from my perspective, it just ticked so many boxes. It was an opportunity that could demonstrate the power of government working with the community and being able to achieve something that leads to long-standing change. I sort of played the role of being the, shall we say, the person who wanted to challenge them and to test the case so that they had to prove the case. And one of the things I did was actually say that we've got to actually develop an economic model associated with this so that we can actually say to decision makers that this is actually a genuine win-win situation. If you invest in primary prevention, you will actually save money because you won't need the resources in healthcare down the line, and at the same time you will then proceed to have real benefits for citizens in this area. Benefits so that they don't have to go down and be faced with the sort of issues that were being talked about earlier, like amputation, etc. The other thing in which I thought is so powerful about what this particular initiative has done is it has brought together so many groups, because it again is one of those situations where the sum is greater than the individual parts, and not one of the individual parts can actually solve the problem.
Do you still have a great passion for what you're doing?
I certainly do. I've moved on from this particular area, but it's something that I think, when it comes to this area, is really crucial. My personal ambition in life is to actually see positive change, and this is an example of positive change.
And while I was tying that together, we've got commitment with regards to the 100,000 a year from that end, from food. You're talking of another dimension, and your commitment is really important within the group and prevention. Thank you for sharing that with us. Professor Thomas, I knew I'd get you when you're having a drink of water, so sorry. Thank you for being here.
Typical academic not able to turn on the microphone. Thank you very much, Jim, and thank you very much, Glenn, and to the team for inviting me to be back here. 10 years. 10 years! Where's it gone? Wow, gosh. I have moved to the University of Sydney recently as the Professor of Cities and Planetary Health, and since, maybe one of the first years that I stepped foot on this brilliant, beautiful country, I had the serendipity to meet with Professor Glenn Mabley over in New South Wales Parliament, and I presented some work and which basically showed this, and I still remember it. It's probably, unfortunately, a lot worse now, but if you're in Mosman, Manly, these sorts of affluent suburbs in the North Shore and eastern part of Sydney, prevalence of diabetes is about 2.5%. You get on the train in North Sydney, you go over to Strathfield, lovely place, but the prevalence of diabetes is about 6% there, so not great. You stay on the train, you come to Blacktown, but you also maybe go over to Liverpool, or you go down to Campbelltown, and the prevalence of diabetes is at least tripled or quadrupled from where we started off with. This is not good. And it tells us something which is what Steve has already mentioned, and what Norman mentioned earlier. We are in part where we live, and we are to some extent influenced by, when we get off the train, what's around us. It's 9 o'clock and we don't want to cook, and we've got kids waiting for us at home. We need to put something hot on the table, and it's dependent upon what's around us. So Glenn and I, supported by Walt, supported by both Steves and others, we mapped what we called food deserts across the city. In a nutshell, areas where it's really rather difficult to go anywhere apart from the big McDonald's sign or whatever it happens to be. And bombshell, more food deserts in the western suburbs. And second bombshell of the night, if you're in a food desert, average BMI tends to be a wee bit higher. And not great. In the meantime, some of the work that Glenn and I and others have been doing has been around tree canopy, which Janine mentioned. Here's something which is perhaps less intuitive. What we've found, and we've been able to replicate this in studies done around the world, is that the more tree canopy you have and the more parkland you have nearby, the lower are the odds you have of getting diabetes over about 5 or 6 years. In Sydney, we calculated at about 31% reduced odds of diabetes over 6 years. Taking into account differences in age and income and education and other different types of status, wow, not necessarily as intuitive as you might think, but perhaps, if we think about it a little bit more, standing on a tree, it's a bit cooler. It also helps to wick away the air pollution. A tree-lined street is a more pleasant street to walk down or cycle down. You're no longer as car-dependent upon those short journeys. Perhaps going to play cricket, for example, you don't need to walk, you don't need to drive there, you can walk there for example. And then, of course, the thing which I keep on going hammering about, which you don't need to know about, which is you're more physically active as you go about this as well. So, what that means is we not only all have a role in this room to play in beating diabetes together, but the people who are actually getting out there, donning their big hats with their sun cream and putting trees in the ground, they're also doing an important part of this job. And we should salute them and support them and get out of their way to make sure that we make Blacktown a really green city for now and for future generations.
Thomas, thank you for that. Very passionate, and I think it dovetails well into our next speakers. Simon, I want to go to Simon, please. Tell us about you and the Heart Foundation.
Sure, thanks, Jim. So the Heart Foundation's been involved with the Alliance, I believe, since its inception, with supporting through the Cowie Cook-Off, which was well before my time. But our main thing, and I'm sure everyone in this room knows that the risk factors for cardiovascular disease and diabetes are very, very similar. And so picking up what Tom said, the cardiovascular risk calculator that was released last year, postcode, is now a weighted risk factor for cardiovascular disease, and similar for diabetes here. And so the Heart Foundation, we're very, very much in line with everything that Tom was just saying about the importance of the built environment and the availability of healthy food options and meeting people where they are. It's all well and good to try and instruct people and inform people to eat healthier, but if they don't have the options there, if the big M is in front of you, 6 times a day, it's just makes it so much more difficult for people in the region to make healthy choices. And so, yeah, access to green spaces, safe walking routes, the ability to have active transport options when you're doing that short trip to the shops. It really makes such a huge difference in making sure that the community is physically active. And as everyone has already touched upon here, the importance of the community and the role that everybody can play in the prevention of a variety of chronic diseases. And so the Heart Foundation, our main program out here is our walking program. We have a walking plan that you can get individually through our website, or you can join a walking group. Pre-pandemic, pre-COVID, we had, I believe it was more than 20 walking groups from GP clinics in Western Sydney, and most of those now are not functioning anymore. So we would really love to see them back up. And these are community groups that get out together on a regular basis. They join the local community. So anyone can, any host organisation or any individual, or we have a couple of elected officials in here, we could be the first person to host a walking group from your elected office would be fantastic. And so we'd love to see those really just the growth of those throughout this region here.
While we're talking about prevention, I challenged you. Tell the audience.
That's right. So Jim and I were talking before, and anyone that starts a walking group in Western Sydney, let me know, and I'll be at your first walk, and then I'll come along to your 100th walk as well. And so we'll do everything that we can to promote the group through our networks and to really support you to support the community.
And Norman, given your vast audiences and so, I would love to see some triangulation there to actually have that. You said, Simon, that you would come to every first
Yes,
walking group.
Absolutely.
So that's the Heart Foundation, if I can put that there. I'm a person, very simple. I like things, I'm task orientated, and I like dates, and I like a job. And so to me, there's a challenge, but a very positive challenge. 5 more minutes to go. Matthew, please.
Hi Jim, hi everyone. I love Blacktown City. I love the country we're on, the honour to work on Taggart country, but it's the people. Born here, bred here, went to school here at Doonside. My folks still live up at Seven Hills at Sebo. Love the place. Came back to work here with the community, with the partnerships. Spoken a couple of times tonight about partnerships. My day job is with local government, and no party can do it alone, but through that partnership we can do things and great things. I love the power that there is in the partnership of community voicing their need, their requests, their desires, partners, stakeholders, and there are many in this room, elected representatives, identifying that need and responding to it and addressing it. We've done a lot, but there's a few to go. I'm really encouraged by some chats I've had in the room, and you've spurred me on again, thank you, around the simple things we can do, whether it's making our public open space more accessible. And it sounds simple, right? Public open space for the public, of course it should be. And every member of the public should be able to access it, play in it, walk in it, throw a ball in it, talk in it, learn to ride a bike in it. And we're doing some things out there. One of them, led by Dr. McDermott in the room, is to unlock Prospect Reservoir. We don't have the coastline close to us and our families to swim, to learn to swim, but we have this water body there that is there, it's public land. Yes, it has other functions, but there are precedents for those water bodies to be unlocked and to be swum in, walked around, picnicked adjacent to. Local government and my role as an officer is to respond to the community need that we hear and that we're directed to respond to through our executive and councillors and mayor. So I really encourage us to empower our community to voice their needs. And there's organised groups out there that have a strong voice, and sport is great. It's 10% of our community. What about the rest of them? How do we empower them, help them get organised to voice what they need? Whether that's a walking path with a seat, with fresh potable water and a tree, that's achievable. But we need to hear that and respond to it accordingly.
And Matthew, there seems to be a theme there, talking about those things, not only the medical aspects, but those things which contribute to the betterment or worse of the person. Sarah, I just want to say welcome, and you're going to be taking on another role within the organisation, and I say on behalf of all of us here, thank you for taking that really important role on, and we join you in all the success. Can I say thank you? One of the things about being a leader is today is not the end. You have to have the passion, as you're saying, Doug, to continue even more now, to continue in the journey of creating a better life. And we're going to hear from some mayors from the Hills and from Cumberland, and I know Norman's going to talk to other parliamentarians, particularly our state. But I've been very impressed with the enthusiasm and the passion of each of you. Would you please join with me and making our guests and colleagues very welcome for their contribution tonight.